prior. So for avoiding that, if we miss something in the published article, we have an option to update it through this erratum. So this erratum mentions the same title of the original article, and it mentions in which number, which page, which line number, which paragraph, and which subheading the update has to be done. And if there is an update in the figure, they also include that in this errata. So next slide. So these are the scholarly articles which have a major contribution in scholarly journals. Now we will clearly come to know how to structure the manuscript and what a manuscript has. So the manuscript is the one, it's like pre-prepared or pre-cooked food. So the article is the one which is the prepared food on the table of the customer. So manuscript is the one which is inside the kitchen. You can assume it in that way. It's the one which is inside the kitchen, which is pre-prepared, which is not served in a proper way. So these manuscripts, drafting or preparing of this manuscript need few guidelines. It has few structure. So we are going to see in detail how a manuscript should be. So it should be coherent and concise while preparing. So this manuscript, it should be very concise what you are going to explain about from the research you got, from the knowledge that have generated from your experience. So this is what a manuscript should have. And it is
Muthuselvam?
Yes?
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. Can you keep your mic closer to your mouth so that the voice would be very clear?
Is it audible now?
Yeah, it's clear now. Yeah, keep it in that position. Sorry.
Okay. So it is imperative that research articles are quick and easy to read because many of us don't have much time to spend on the manuscript. So people would have a small glance and a brief glance for any research article. So in that glance, you should have attract the reader. So that is the main purpose or main success of a manuscript or success of an article to get more citation. You have to attract the reader who is reading it in a brief way. So for an article, for a manuscript, there is in many journals there is a structure, there is a common structure. It is called as INRAD. You can break. This is an abbreviation. You can break the abbreviation. I stands for introduction, and M for materials and method, R for results, and G for discussion and conclusion. So this is the main content of a manuscript, excluding title and abstract keywords. These are accessories, like what is prefixing the manuscript, and acknowledgement, references, these suffixing the manuscript. So this is the composition of manuscript. But when coming to the point, while drafting a manuscript, we cannot move in this direction. Next slide. So there is a direction. There is a direction of drafting a manuscript. Though it starts from introduction to discussion, we should not move in that direction while drafting a manuscript. So I have structured this content into 3 steps. So first is the materials and methods and research. These are the most important thing that you have to track at the beginning, because while doing your experiment, you have collected the materials and you have all the materials in your hands, and you execute the work, and you got a result. You might have made the result document. So this is the one which we have in our hand, and we have to start from here. So once we started drafting the result, get a conclusion from the result, a raw conclusion or a brief conclusion from the result, you can go to the second step. So in the second step, you have to start with introduction. This introduction and discussion, they are more or less similar. Where the introduction gives a glance about the need for a work, and the discussion it discusses more about what we infer from the result. So what is the need for the work is structured in introduction, and how the result has been interpreted has been included in the discussion. And conclusion is the part that is a short space or a short content which gives an idea about what you actually got from the results or got from the work you executed. And then last is the step where you have to fix with the title and abstract. And rather than going with title and abstract, I might refer it to with abstract and title. So abstract is the one which is the concise content of the whole article, so that people always read the abstract and they have to get a attraction over the manuscript. So if they got attraction over the manuscript, they'll move to read the article, or otherwise they might have read the manuscript. So abstract is that kind of content which has a major role in for a reader to read the manuscript. So this should be the possible order which will give correct manuscript, or which will give a manuscript to be published as a research article. So next slide. So in detail, we'll see each and every part of this manuscript in detail. So coming to title. So title is the one which should say what the content of the article says. For example, if you go to a hotel and we'll have a menu card, and that menu card shows what are all the content that the hotel has. Likewise, if we go for a shopping mall, there is a card which shows in which floor which is present. So this shows a brief idea about what is present inside. So that is more important for any research article. So what are the key points of this title is? It should convey the main topic of the study, as I have mentioned the things. It should convey the main topic of the study. It should highlight the importance of the research, and it should be concise, and it attract the reader. So these are the points which serve the title serves. And a title should not be too long or too short, so that it might lose the interest of the reader. So I have given here an example how a title should be and how it should not. Next click. Next click, please. Yeah. So here there is a title which is too many unnecessary words. So you can read the title because it's visible in everyone's slide. You can read the title. So the title of the article, it says something clumsy. If you have information, but if you have a clumsy of information, and definitely it annoys a reader, and it has more prepositions and unwanted words and redundant and a repetition of words. So it should not be like that. And next slide. If you go with a very small title, for example, this is the same title, means same information. Influenza vaccination of children, the randomization. It doesn't serve the purpose. It lacks a lot of information. It is not a complete picture of the manuscript. So, too much of words, yeah. I didn't say that, but just please be online so that, yeah, thank you. So that you'll be, yeah, too much of words and too small will not serve the purpose. So it should be legible. It should have all the information, at least a major information of the manuscript, and it should be very concise. So next click, please. Yeah, here you read the title. You read the title of this state. So you could understand what is the difference between two large titles and a too short title. So it should be in the middle. So usually write down a few possible titles and then select the best to define for. this is the way one should go with the title. And if possible, ask your colleagues, your supervisor for their opinion. And spending the time needed to do this will result in a better title. That should be that everyone should keep this in mind. Not the content of your material, not the pages of it's not a exam paper, right? As the page increases, you can get more readers. It will not happen. Actually, everything is on the title. If the title is interesting, people started spend some time to read the abstract. And if the abstract is interesting, they can go inside the manuscript. And if the manuscript is what you might get more citation, from there you'll get a regular pronunciation. So that is the way we have to go. Next slide. The next to the title is the abstract. So what an abstract stands for? An abstract is a summary of the content of the manuscript. So whatever you have included in the manuscript from the top to bottom, it has a concise content as an abstract. And what is the need for this abstract is it is a time-saving shortcut for a busy researcher, a busy reader. And it is a guide to the most important part of the manuscript. It means what a manuscript detailedly explained should be concised in the abstract. So that people would have known what is mentioned inside the manuscript and they could understand where they start, what they achieve, and what is the conclusion, what they infer from the achievement. So these are the things an abstract should consider. So there are one should answer these questions before they draft an abstract. So what are the questions? They are the four, what I have mentioned here. What was that? What did you do it? What did you find? And why are these findings useful and important? So these four questions should be asked to you to make to draft an abstract. And many articles or many journals have different types of abstract. Majority of the journals they have a word count that from 150 words to 200 words, and as a one paragraph or two paragraphs. Make most possibly one paragraph. The few journals they ask us to ask the writer author to break that into four groups as background information, materials and methods, results, and discussion. Result, discussion, conclusion. So in general, it is a paragraph which starts from the background information, what was done, as the question one says, and why did you do it, the reason, the motive for the study, and what did you find. And in between, there is how you find. You cannot mention all the materials and methods in this. And what you find, and what is the usefulness, and what you interpret from that, what is the conclusion. So this should be the short content of the whole manuscript. And in majority of the journals, they don't prefer authors to use abbreviation and expansion inside the abstract, and also references. It should be avoided in the abstract so that you can minimize the number of words and also unwanted content. And coming to the abbreviation, if the abbreviation is universal, then you can use it. If it means a specific expansion, it should not be. It should be avoided from the abstract. That is the basic idea, and that's a great idea to make an abstract. And here, I have given a few hints with the colored boxes in every slide. So for the viewers, I would like to remind that the hints will be in italics and in a box. So a well-written abstract can also help speed up the peer review process. As mentioned here, it also have the possibility to make your manuscript published as an article. So next slide. So next one is keyword. Though it is very small, it needs to be, it has its position. So the keywords are mentioned next to the abstract, which have mentioned the important words which we use inside the manuscript. It should not be the word which we use frequently. For example, if it is about a cancer, uh, and we use carcinogen, we should not use the word carcinogen. We might have used it inside the article many times, but you have to think wisely whether this word might serve as a good, attractive component to describe a manuscript when someone has typed this keyword. So we all might be know, or when we type something in the query box of Google, we got a lot of suggestions. So this keyword serves for that purpose. So one should understand and one should use this thing. I mean, to represent the content of your manuscript and be specific to your field or subfield. So that is the key purpose of this keyword. Next slide. So I have given an example. Yeah, I have given an example here. What is a poor keyword and what is a better keyword? So for example, if the manuscript, the title is region-specific neuronal degeneration after cardiac acid administration, you just read the content. What should be a good keyword for this content? So rather than mentioning brain or neuron or signal or degeneration, this might be present many times in the manuscript, but it should not serve as a better keyword. It should not be an attractive keyword, and it should not pull your article when someone texts a query on the query box. So it should be precise, it should be logical, and it should bring your article on the queue on the line when someone has typed these keywords on the query box. Next slide. So next keyword is introduction. So introduction, we already said the introduction is the second step one should start with. And what is the importance of this introduction? What an introduction contains? The introduction, it provides a reader with the background information needed to understand the story. So whatever, because you might be familiar with your research content, but when you explain that to a person who is out of your scientific group or out of your scientific field, they must also understand what the content should be. So you have to give a brief introduction, a brief information about the background of the study and the reason why you conduct your experiment. And that should be mentioned in the introduction. What is the question and what is the problem you need to be focused? So this should be mentioned in the introduction. Next please. But there is a hint. Yeah. What you should not do, you should not or we should not write a literature review in the introduction. We can write a literature review for ourselves for making it to publish when it is for a dissertation. You can write a literature of review, and for your understanding, yes, you can draft a literature of review and you can keep it on your note, but it should not replicate the literature review on the introduction. It should be a crisp and it should be concise of literature review, and whatever which supports your idea, your problem, or whatever which leads to questioning, means leads to the questioning, it should be mentioned as the background information, not the whole literature review. It should be avoided. The whole literature review of someone have found this on this year, then next come this year, this person found this. It will create an less attractiveness. It provides a less attractiveness to the article. So it should be concise, though the background information should be mentioned. It should be very concise. It should be logical. It should support. It should justify your question. Yeah, this should be mentioned in the introduction. Next clip. So there is a knowledge gap in any field. We, we do research. No, no. Go back. Yes. So there is a knowledge gap in any research. So we have to point out the knowledge gap and how could we rectify that knowledge gap by our proposed experiment. So that should be mentioned in the introduction. And also, the final thing to include at the end of the introduction is a clear and exact statement of your study aim. In majority of the introduction, they have structured, they have break the content into 4 paragraphs, 4 to 5 paragraphs, mostly 4 paragraphs, with 3 paragraphs as a long paragraph, and the fourth one should be uh, the study aid. So what we are proposing, how we are how we are going to perform that particular experiment. I mean, that particular, how we are going to justify that particular question with the experiment. That should be explained on the end of the introduction. It is must to explain that in a few sentences, not to make it as a big paragraph. It should be in 5 lines, in a few sentences. So one thing we need to keep in mind is, keep in mind while drafting the introduction is about tagging the references. So while writing the background, we should make the citation, and that citation should be that references. It should be well balanced for the content of the manuscript and the question, and it should be current and it should be relevant. Why it is current? Why it should be current? So in majority of the journals, they have some prescribed stuff like 40% of the article should be published on the and just 5 years before the submission. For example, if you are submitting in 2020, the 40% of the references it should be from 2015 to 2020. So it's that you are familiar with the recent article, recent updates in that particular case. But it is important to mention the old references as well. For example, those who are working in proteomics might be knowing. So whomever do cell-based proteomics and whomever do trackful method, even today they are tagging or they are referring the first paper published in 70s, 1978, in 70s, that Bradford's method that has to be included. But if it is a modification, if it is a gold standard method, then it is fine. You have to include it, but not majority or not all the articles should be an old one. You should include the current article and should be relevant as well. See, that should not be a courtesy of uh, uh, adding someone's name, someone's paper, because he or she might be a senior or your friend's, your boss's friend of your boss, or someone from whom you'll get some benefit out of the manuscript, some other benefit. It is unethical. It is unethical. It should be avoided. I don't know how possible it is, but as per the rule, it is unethical. You should not include unrelevant articles that might make your article less readable and that might question your credibility of the article. So you should, rather than publishing that, what we think is making some manuscript to publish will end with that. It is not. After publication, also there is a lot of things happen with your manuscript. So it should be cited by others. You might have questioned by others. Someone might have taken your article as a reference. So all these happen. So you should be more concentrate on that fact. So should avoid making or providing citation for someone for any personal reason. So next slide. Coming to materials and methods. Yeah, materials and methods. So next to introduction is materialism method. At the end of the introduction, we might have, I said we have included how we are going to justify the question, means how we are going to execute something to justify the question or to make the question as a content. So that comes materials and methods, and there are few basic steps to be followed while constructing a materials and method. You might have did the experiment in a different ways. Something might be done earlier, some might be done late, something might have done parallelly. It's up to the record book. But when it comes to drafting, it should be logical. You should not do, I have done this experiment 3 years before or 2 years before. Then I done this experiment later. So I have to include that in the chronological order. That will not work out. So rather than going with the chronological order, it should be with the logic. It should be with from starting from down to high, low to high. So what read this content that materials and methods for constructing, it should use subheading to separate different methodologies, and it should describe how he did in that concept. It described everything in the past tense. So in materials and methods, we have done that experiment, right? So majority of the people have some problem with English while drafting the manuscript. That also reduce the interest of the reader. So materials and methods should be in past tense. But coming to introduction, it might be in both tenses, in the present tense and also in past tense. So our present continuous, you might have used that for introduction. But for materials and methods, it should be in the past tense. And it describes new methods in enough detail, but not the pre-existing method. For example, if something everybody is know, or if something has been established well, like estimating the concentration of DNA, estimating the concentration of protein with macromolecular concentration estimation, some enzymatical analysis. So these everyone know. Unlike a practical notebook, we should not write take 10 test tubes, add 1 ml of water. It should be avoided. It should be concise, crisp, and it should be new. If that is the existing method, you can refer it to the author's name. For example, as per some author, XXX author, as per his description. Inside the bracket, you can make the reference. So that should be enough detailing of every exhibit should be avoided. If it is a new method, or if there is a modification in the method you have established or you have utilized, you can mention that modification, but not the whole content. And last one is the statistical test and parameter. I have to mention what all the statistics test you have used in that particular for that particular manuscript. If there is a use of some softwares, you have to mention that what softwares you have used for making a diagram, for making recording the microscopic things, for recording the data, for analyzing the data. That should be mentioned. And if there is the parameters you have changed in that softwares or in that microscope, for example, when it comes to a fluorescent microscope, you may have or fluorescent or confocal microscope, there is some parameters you have fixed with. So it should have mentioned that parameters as well, either in the content, in the material method that is prescribed, but also during the representation of the figure. When you have mentioned the figure, you have mentioned that particular information. Next click. So that is a hint while drafting the material method. Yeah. For any particular journal, you have to look for the instruction for authors or the pre-published articles in order to refer how they draft the manuscript. The next slide. Yeah. Next is research. So what a result contain? How should it be? So the result should be, it should be, there are few contents I have included. It should not, it should have subheading as mentioned in the Muthuselvam method. It should be on the logical order, not on the order of experiment you have performed, as I mentioned earlier, and it should be in the past. It should not duplicate data, and it should include all the results, all the statistical analysis in the text. And in the result, you have display material. So result is not always with text. It has some display material. So this display material should be either figure or legend. So as a gold standard word, or as a English saying says, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So it should be mentioned. So many content which you are going to express in text might take many pages. But when you concise that into a figure, it stands alone and it explains the content with less number of pages. And one should understand while using this table or result, it should be enough. We should have some enough data to make it as a table or figure. So not for just making a table or figure, you should not include any text in that way. If the text is more complex to understand, you have to make it as a display material. If not, for a simple text, for example, if there is a comparison between two, for A provides this, B provides this, it should be come in the text. But there is a multiple content. A with different 5, 10 parameters, B with 10 parameters, what are the difference, what is the results of each parameter, then we can go with the state. And if there is a pathway analysis, and if there is a content comprised after the result analysis, and if you want to make it as a eye-catchy text, eye-catchy content, then you can go for a picture. So these are the important things why a result should contain text or picture. And a common mistake is to restate much of the data from a table in the text of a manuscript. So many people do this mistake. Instead of making information in the table, people used to make it on the text and in the table and in the figure. So instead, use the text to summarize what the reader will find in the table, or mention one or two of the most important data points. That is usually much easier to read data in a table than in the text. So it should be based on this logic. You can go with the table or figure. So next slide. So here I'm going to explain you what are all the display items we can use and how to make each item. So this is the important content of this presentation. So just key in these slides that there are two types of display items we can use in the article, that is figures and tables that I mentioned earlier. So it should communicate large amount of complex information in a concept, and a reader will always look at the display item. So if the display item, if it is good, then they'll go with your article. And the display item should be self-explanatory. Any figure, any table should be self-explanatory. So it should have some information about the content on the title, and the description of the figure or table. So one should ask these questions while making a display item. Are there any data that reader might rather see as a display item rather than a text? So here I have mentioned that you might have read it. So the figure should supplement the text, and it should not be a replicate of the text. So the supplementation should be important. And the data into a table that could easily be explained in the text, such as simple statistics or p-values. As I have mentioned earlier, if it is not much data, it should not be included as a table. Next slide. So coming to the table, a table should be it should be concise and it should be presented in an effective way, and a table should contain these content. I have made in highlights. Clear and concise legend or caption. It should have a data divided into categories for clarity. Sufficient spacing between column and row. Units are provided, and font type and size of it should be legible. So these are the important points to keep in mind while drafting a table. And colorful tables making multiple columns, it makes the table less interesting. There should not be multiple lines between each column. You can make a space or a tab for each column. So that is more important to make a table as a clear content rather than making a multiple colors, multiple boxes, and with different colors. It should be in a gray. It should be in black and white with lines and words. It should not contain colors. If there is an important content inside the table, you can make it highlight rather than making the whole table as a color content. So that should be avoided. So next slide. Yeah, next comes the figure. So figures are of different. Yeah, figures are of different types. Majority of the figures in the manuscript are of images, data plots, maps, and schematics. Next. So coming to the images. Yeah, coming to the images. So what is an image used for, and how to make the image? And this, I have given a few points here. I don't want to read each and every line because since it is visible for you, you might have read it. So I'll give a concise content from the concise of the content. So it should include a scale bar. Any images, anything should be included with a scale bar, and it should consider labeling, and it indicates meaning of different colors and symbols if it is used. And coming to data plots, it's a large quantity. When there is a large quantity of data, we can use the data plots, and it should have axis, x-axis, y-axis, z-axis, and whatever the axis you use, you have to mention each and every axis, and unit should be specific units for quantity should be mentioned, and so as I have mentioned, it should be like that. Next slide. So coming to maps and schematics, this is not much useful for us, but for those who are working on field studies, field studies and particular field, particular location, they might have used the map. So they have to use these are the things you have to keep in mind while drafting the map. Have to make the latitude and longitude. The scale board should be correct, and it should be the label should be clear, and the map legend should be have considered the map legend. And schematic. So schematic is the one. For example, if you have pathway analysis step, you might have got 200 to 300 pathways from the result you got. You cannot make all the pathways visible on the article. Whereas you can get information from each pathway and pull the important content of the pathways to make it as a clear schematic, one or two pictures out of the 200 pathways. So there comes this schematics. So these are the important contents of a figure. So next slide. Just for an example, I have given this. So the A is a schematic, B is also a part of schematic. You can draw the content, and C and G are data plots, and E is the image, what I have mentioned in the first thing, and a part of E is image, and part of this bars is again a data plot. Next slide. So types of images. So coming to the figure, while drafting something on the manuscript, there are a lot kinds of images are there you can utilize. These are the few things: line art, halftone art, combination art, color art. So these are the major art which we can use for which you can use in the figure. And with any type of figure, you have to mention the figure lettering, figure numbering, figure caption, and figure placement and size. So that to keep that to what is the size it should be used for, how should be it numbered, what are the letters it should be used. These kind of information I have textured in this slide. I think we are running out of time, and I don't want to make all the things to be read. I hope um, the organizer will send this slide to everyone so that you can read. Hello.
Muthuselvam, sorry for the interruption. You can go on. You have more information to show to the participants, right?
Okay, but
we just have only we just have only one more session. If you like, you can go on, please.
Yeah. I would like to explain, but if people are okay with the timing, then I can move it. Yeah. Okay, I'll make a brief content of everything. So coming to the line art. So the line art is the one which with lines, only with lines, a black and white graphical content, as I have mentioned in this. You can read the content which I have mentioned on the right side while I'm discussing the things. So it should not be fine. There are few rules. It should be clear. It should be legible, and the line thickness should be consistent. It should be 2.5 to 3, and it should be 1.5 to 2 if it is on the axis. It is 2.5 to 3 mm when it is on the figure, on inside the bar. So that is, this point should be used because I have mentioned here point P, PG, Y. And the scanned line drawings in bitmap format should have a minimum resolution of 1000 pixels. It's all about resolution and the thickness of each and everything. It should be clear. We should not fix everything with what we visualize. So when it comes for a publication, it should be on hard paper. So the coloring, the tone, everything changes. So whenever you made a picture, this is a hint for you or a tips for you. Whenever you made a picture before finalizing, you should take a printout of the picture. If possible, in the color, if it is the color content, you can make it a color printout, and you can check for each and every information rather than you can give it to someone else to check, because those who draft a figure will miss many things. Uh, when you analyze it, you might have missed few basic information. We should think about the content. So you might miss the content. So I'm sorry, you might miss the small information. So you have to check it with other person so that you can rectify the error before it goes for a submission. So that should be done. Next slide. So coming to half-tone art and combination art. So half-tone art are photographs, drawings, or paintings, photographs which we take with microscopes and those kind of stuff. Microscope, histopathological images, everything comes under this half-tone art. And this should be with a minimum resolution of 300 dpi, and the brightness, the color correcting should be there. And these kind of information should be given in the half-tone art, because whatever we see in the screen are in RGB color format. But when it is going for a publication in the publication sector in the industry, they might have changed everything to CMYK. Many might have know about this CMYK color, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. K stands for black, and this coloration. So these have multiple different shades when compared to RGB. So the color transformation might affect the quality of the image. So you should be more concentrated or more concerned about making colors which is common between RGB and CMYK. If you could not make the colors or the suggestions like making it in contour color and histopathological images, it should be more bright. It should be on the basic color so that you have to um, conform it well. And also, with it's not only with microscopic pictures, it is also for drawings like bar diagrams, some diagrams along with a line and after. Because so these kind of content, you have to mix the line diagram with after part. Sometimes you might have used it. So it should be more clear that the DPI must be 300 or more. Coming to combination art, it's as I said, it's a combination with halftone and line art. It should be 600 GPA. So as the DPA increases, the quality of your art, the quality of your picture increases. So these are few ideas to make your article attractive. This is an eye-catching thing in your article that makes the readers to attract your content, and should consider they might consider spending some time on your manuscript. So this is an easy way to attract the reader. Next slide. Coming to color art. No, color art. Previous one. Previous slide. Previous. The one which is previous. Yeah, sure. You can fix it with. No, next one. Color art. The one what you have kept is halftone art. Can you please? Yeah, fix it with. Fix the slide. So coming to color art. So you have to check with the publication whether you have free of charge for color art. So many publications, many journals have published information in as an online and also in hard paper. So they have both. So if you have an idea of making a color art, you have to make two figures with same content, but one in gray shade, one in color. One is for publication in hard as a hard copy, one for online publication. So it is important to make two pictures. So whatever the picture you make, you have to keep a copy. So one basic thing I would suggest you all is to make multiple folders. So when you started drafting a manuscript, before when you started collecting the results, by executing the experiment, you have to make folders, subfolders with dates. For example, if it is based on date or month, you have to make it like that. And if you're doing replicating the experiment, it should be like experiment 1, 2, and 3, each with a different folder. So you have to make multiple folders. And while started drafting the manuscript, the images should be started. You should have started preparing the images. While preparing the images, you have to make again a subfolder for each figure, subfolders and sub information. So whatever figure you are making, you have to make a copy. If you want to update the figure, keep the one which you have already prepared and take a copy of that and update it. Do not update on the original figure. You have to keep all this data until the paper published. It is not until the paper published. You have to keep it for your lifetime, at least for 10 years from the publication of the paper, because there are a lot of queries. There is a chance of queries, and there is a chance of getting questions from the reader. Many might have experienced, the professors might have experienced that. Even after 2 or 3 years, you might have get some interesting comments from the readers and also questions. So it is important to document everything in folders. And you might have some comedies in Tamil films, but in that the person who is having a bit in the exams might forget where the bit is. So if you have a lot of if that kind of multiple folders, you have to make a content, Excel sheet, what the folders you have and what is the information in there. It's like a bit for bit where you have to keep all the bits. So in that way, you have to make the content. What are all the folders you have? What is the content inside each folder? So it is helpful for you because unlike the Western countries, we are not doing based on manuscript. If we start doing a work for a manuscript, it is not possible. We'll do some work for our PhD or for our postdoctoral completion or for the MSc dissertation. We have content, and whatever the possible content is, we combine and make it as manuscript. The rest will leave it or we'll make it as a different manuscript. So you have to make each and every content. See, everything is like preparing a food in the kitchen. You might have all the provisions, and it is only with 5 or 10 provisions you can make the food. You can cook the food, but you might have 20 to 30 provisions. It is important to make all the provisions available in the stock. So whatever the need is, if the manuscript is not suitable for one journal, then you have to move it to other journal. You cannot keep the same picture, you cannot keep the same content, same text as such for every journal. You have to make a small modification so that you have to have all the raw details, all the half-made pictures with you, so that it is easy for you to make what is the customer's need as in the photo. So it is important to document everything. It is important to store every picture, every level of picture you draw, you make it. So rather than drafting, I would feel making a figure is more tricky. You can make any text, but making a picture is very tricky. So it requires many software, and many of the journals they are okay with the pictures which we made with Adobe Photoshop, we made with PowerPoint with in high quality. That's fine. That's more okay with many channels. So it should be keep in mind. And as I mentioned, color illustration. In the last point, it has been mentioned. What is the bit size of RGB and what should you use? It should not use bitmap. Should be you should use GIF or JPEG for any figure to make it. And whatever you have make it in PowerPoint, you can save it as a picture, and it should have a background with a light color, preferably white background, and that is one option in PowerPoint, like enhanced meta picture. So whenever you copy something, rather than copy paste, means copy and control C and control V, you can go and make this enhanced meta picture. So it will increase the byte size. So this is a thing that I could give you. So any picture you can insert via the insert button. Rather than copy and paste and dragging, you can save the picture from net, or if you have saved the picture from the software like Leica for microscope, you have to insert the picture via the proper way into any working platform like Adobe Photoshop or for PowerPoint. I have to make it through insert, and I have to maximize the size up to the prescribed level, and the GPA is also increased. And then you start working on the figure. So next, I will we'll go to the next slide. Yeah, figure lettering. So what should be mentioned in the figure lettering? And what is the font which is prescribed for many journals? Is Helvetica or Arial? Arial is a font style for majority of the journal. So journal comes. So when you talk about journal, it comes under publication, publishers. So there are basic publishers like Wiley Blackwell, Springer, um, Elsevier. These are publishers. They have many journals, many scholarly journals, and they have a common. For example, if it is an Elsevier journal, they have a common figure numbering, figure presentation. Everything is common for majority of the journal. So each publication group have this kind of rules and regulations. And away from publication means if you move to publication sector, there are many society journals that have they have prescribed uh, the standards of this publication industry. For example, many prefer Springer's group. What the instruction given in Springer is followed by many society journals. So journals, the publication structure of the journal is varied that I will explain in the final slide after completing this manuscript campaign. This is the one which is used in majority of the journal, Helvetica and the Arial, and the font size should be 8 to 12, not more than that. It should not be much variable, like 20 and 8 that I have mentioned here. If it is 8, the consistency is more important with usage. For example, if you are drafting 4 or 5 pictures or at least 3 pictures in the manuscript, the consistency between the usage of the font size, the usage of the line thickness, everything should be consistent. Consistency is more important so that it gives a clear idea about it, it gives a good impression about the author, the presenter. So that should be more important. And this is the prescribed thing. Helvetica or Arial is the prescribed font, and size is 8 to 12. You can avoid shading or giving outline to the words, and don't include titles or captions within the illustration. So these are the basic content for figure lecture. Next slide. Coming to the numbering of figures, what we should use for numbering. So, for example, we might have split figures into many subgroups. As I have shown, I have shown one figure earlier. It has subgroups from A to E. So, it should be, it always should be denoted by lowercase. In quality journal, it should be in lowercase. A, B, C in lowercase, not in uppercase, means not a capital letters. It should be in a small letter. And it should be Arabic numerals. It should not be one I point O, double I. That kind of numerals might not be. It should be avoided. It should be alphabets. In many cases, it should be alphabet. And as I mentioned here in the highlights, in the italics, it should not be A1, A2, A3, like the appendix figure. Appendix figure should follow the norm of figures, means follow the main figures. It should be, if the main figure ends with 3, then the appendix figure should start with 4. And it is important to cite the figure in the text. Figure and table, this display item should be cited in the text once or twice. At least once you have to cite it in the text, or otherwise there is no logic in making the figure. The figure should explain something which is related to the content you have mentioned, text you have mentioned in the manuscript. So should be more clear about the numbering and the usage of alphabets. Next slide. So coming to the figure caption. So as I have mentioned earlier for the title, here also the figure caption should be more clear, it should be concise, it should state what the particular figure explains about, and it should start with the caption figure and the number in bold. It should not be with colons. It should not segregate with colons. No punctuation should be included in between the figures. For example, figure 6, the colon, and the title. It should not be like that. But many journals, they have used a punctuation like full stop. But in majority of the journal, it is avoided. It is a continuous text, and you have to make the punctuation at the end of the title. And the title should be bold along with the figure caption. And many journals need the description of the content. So as I mentioned earlier, all the figures, all the display elements, the figure and table, they should stand alone. So for standing alone, it should be self-explanatory. And it is important to mention mention the content, the idea or the outcome of the figure. So it should be a person who's looking on your picture might understand what might be have included in the text. So it should be self-explanatory. It should stand alone. These are the things which you have to keep in mind while giving a caption to the picture. And come to the fifth point. I mean, the fourth point. Identify all elements found in the figure caption, and use box, circles, etc. as coordinate points in graph. So everything you have explained in the picture, everything you have given in the picture should be explained at the end, at the caption, at the text of the figure or table, the display material. And for instance, you can identify the previously published material, and you can make uh, related to that. For example, if you are going to publish in a particular, if you are looking for submitting in a particular journal, you can refer the articles which is already published in the journal and try to make your picture with that journal, which is adjacent to that, or which is it should find similar to that journal. So you have to make the original picture. You have to keep the things with you, and while submitting for a particular journal, you have to make the content which is similar to the published material in that particular journal. And you have to keep your own picture on your folder. So it is very important. You have to make folders for every article. For example, if you have plan a particular picture or particular content for one paper, you can draft it as the paper title. And if you are publishing, if you are trying to publish or submitting it to a particular journal, you have to make a subfolder with the journal name, and you copy and paste everything which is from your core content to that particular folder. You have to keep number of replicates should be there. That is the easiest way because we can find other steps from reading some material. But these kind of things should be get from the person who's already in that line, as from the senior. They could suggest you how to avoid the loss of time, how to avoid more time in spending on making these things. So these things might, I hope these things might helpful for you to store the data and make it clearly mentioned in the folders. That should be useful, I think. So coming to the next slide. Next slide, please. No, yeah. Figure placement and size of the figure and placement. So in majority of the journal, they'll publish the figures as a whole content or half of the content. See, there are two column jobs in majority of the journals. So either they'll publish this picture as for the whole column, either single, double, or 1.5. That is the one which is mentioned in majority of the journal. Either you have to make a picture, if it is small, you have to make picture which fit in one column. If it is very big, it should be made as two columns. But if it is in between, you have to make it as 1.5. It should not blow up to 2. It should be made as 1.5 and have to kept in between these two columns. I hope you might have got the information. Two column job is the content is in two two columns in the manuscript. So pictures might have extended for the both the columns or fit onto the one column or in between this two columns. So that is the basic picture size which is used for many journals, and majority of the journal I think nowadays majority of the journals are of A4 size. Only few society journals they are less in size, and B4, B5, these kind of sizes are there. But for that, you can, if you make the picture with a higher quality for A4 size, to publish in an A4 size, you can minimize the content for click. So that's not a big difference. And here I have mentioned what is the size which is used in majority of the journals, starting from 39 mm to 174 mm. And for book and book size journals, this is what I said. The B5 book size, it is from 80 to 122, not 172, not 39. It should be in between this sentence. So it should be more clear. You should be more clear with the size of the figure and the placement that to fit. So next slide. Yeah, here I have mentioned what are all the things which we should avoid while doing an image manipulation. So manipulation, it doesn't, it might sound like doing some illegal thing, but it is not so. We have to do some manipulation when we are taking a half-tone images. When we are taking images from microscopes and those kind of stuff, you have to do some basic manipulation. So what are the basic manipulation which is acceptable by the journal is cropping of the image and brightness or contrast change. So if you change the brightness or contrast, for example, plus 10 brightness, minus 10 contrast, all the figures which is mentioned in that group, in the subgroup. For example, we will not give one image of pathology or one image of microscopic image. We might have keep nearly 5 to 10 images, and we have started comparing each image. That is the way we used to prepare a picture. And this brightness or contrast should be equal for all the subgroups, all the sub pictures which is present in that figure. For example, if you have 10 slides, all the 10 slides should be with the same brightness and contrast. And also cropping of image. Unless otherwise it is important, you should not crop the image you captured from the microscope. You can make it while checking the picture. See, there are a lot of software attached to the camera. One example is Leica, as I mentioned earlier. It is with the software, and it provide options for cropping or making one particular location as a key point and making a bars, size of the bar, everything. See, if you maximize or if you crop the image which already is uptime, it might give a false impact, or it might give false data. And it is a bias, or it is purposefully we are making that to happen. So it is illegal. It is not under the, it is not prescribed publishing a manuscript. So there are few ethics in publications, and it is one among that. So you should not crop the images or maximize the images when it is in a comparison. So that should be avoided. And as I given a hint in the green box, keep copies of the original images, files, and metadata used to create your figure, as these can be requested by the journal to be the review process. Many might not experience this, but many good journals, if they have some doubt in the figures you have given, they would ask for the raw data, either the book or the raw material, raw pictures you have obtained. So I had one such experience when I was in Harvard, because it was in a good economic journal. So they have asked for the picture. They have asked for the data. Reviewers used to ask this kind of stuff when they want to clarify whether the data or picture they have given is correct. So we have to keep all the original copies, all the original image files in a particular folder, as I mentioned earlier. So these are important points you should remind. It's not just copy something from from or 5 or 10 articles and make something like a manuscript. So it is like it is big process of it is big process. So you should be conscious in each and every step which is in the process. The next slide. So next is a discussion and conclusion. So now we have finished the result section with the display items. So next is the discussion and conclusion. So what are the many major things in this discussion conclusion that we are going to see? So many researchers are hesitant to do this as they feel it highlights the weakness in their research to the editor and reviewer. So it is very important to make the discussion and conclusion a very clear content. However, doing this actually makes a positive impression of your paper as it makes it clear that you have an in-depth understanding of your topic and can think objectively of your research. So that should be explained, that should be protected from the discussion rather than he says this in 1980, he says this in 1720, he says this in 1518, he says this 2010, he says this. So I'm saying this. So this is not a good way of making a discussion. So the discussion should give a good impression, and it should give it is a credit for you. If the readers, if they find the discussion is good, you'll get a good credibility, and your article should be cited by them. So it is more important to keep this in mind while drafting the discussion. And what do your results mean? So that is the major question in the discussion we are explaining about. We have did some experiment, we got this result that we have mentioned till research section. So what you infer from the discussion? What you infer from that result? I'm sorry. What you infer from that result? That is the discussion. And a few key points for making the discussion is which is most relevant, which is least relevant. You have to keep that in mind while drafting the discussion. In result section and materials and method section, we said it should be in the order of logical, not in the order of execution. So where here it should be in the order of importance. So you might have performed 5 experiments. I mean 5 subgroups of experiments for a manuscript, but which gives more information, more relevant information that should be stated at first. And it should be from in a descending order, where the most important at the first and least important first. And compare the results with those from other studies. Yeah, it is important to see. You should not say, I will never look for other researchers. This is the experiment I did, so I'm explaining it. It is not that way. You have to justify your data with others, with the pre-published articles. So one important thing to make your paper in a good journal is refer good articles, means good publications from a worthy journal, from a prestigious journal, from society journal. It's not always with the impact factor, but the prestigiousness, it's with the year of existence, the reader who is a part of that journal. That's important. That's the important thing rather than impact factor. The prestigiousness of the journal. So you have to include journals from the prestigious, articles from prestigious journals for your discussion and for the interaction. So that should be more important. So, and you should not always think if what you have planned, if you got what you have planned, that is called result. If not, it is not. That is a wrong idea. So anything you execute, you will get some result. That is the result. There is no one of the scientists under whom I work, she always say there is no positive or negative result. We should not keep things in that way. That is the result. Either you are making it, tracking it in a positive way, or making it for a doesn't support your problem. That's matter. That it become positive or negative. But no result is negative. It is result. So you have to keep that in mind while comparing, inferring the result, and you have to give support supportive evidence for both of it. If it is not suitable for the problem you have taken, if it doesn't promote the problem you have taken, justify the problem you have taken, you have to give some references why it is not justified. That's a good way of making a discussion. And coming to the final point, inconclusive result. That's what I have mentioned. The inconclusive result will also be detailedly explained. If not in detail, you have to explain it at least in brief. So should not show a bias of explaining the result or excluding a particular result. That bias should be avoided. And the limitation. And there is a limitation. There is a count limitation, and word count limitation, and also the content. You have to keep that in mind. What is the limitation of each journal while drafting the discussion? We cannot make some 3 to 5 pages of discussion for every journal. Many journals might have only one page, one publishable page of discussion. That is a major majority of the journals, they have that limitation, only one published page for discussion or 1.5 published page for discussion. So I have to keep that in mind while drafting the discussion. But one thing is, you can make a discussion with 3 to 5 to 10 pages as well, and you have to keep it busy. So whatever journal you are going with, you are moving with, you have to change the discussion as per the journal. So that's a good idea. You can have introduction and discussion for many pages as a common introduction and discussion. When you are moving for a manuscript, when you are making a manuscript to submit for one particular journal, you have to make the content in the introduction and discussion which is suitable for that, which is suitable to cope up with the scope of that journal. If that is not published in that journal, if you are moving to next journal, you have to change. It is must to change the introduction and discussion. You should not, just like that, you should not submit the same content to any journal. So the introduction and discussion should be revised every time when you submit a journal, every time when you submit the manuscript for the journal. So you have to have back in your hand, you have to have a background information with multiple pages, but when it comes for the manuscript, you have to concise it for one publication, one publishable page, one page. So next slide. And what the results may mean. What the results may mean, that should be explained and clear in the discussion, and state how your result extend the finding. What is the outcome from the finding? How will justify you have mentioned, and what you infer, what is the outcome from this? Is there any possibility, is there any room for new ideas from the outcome of the study? If it supports any other findings which should be performed and which should be concentrated for further study, it should also be mentioned in the discussion part at the end of the discussion. So you have to keep that in mind. As you have mentioned, a small paragraph in the introduction, this discussion also needs a small ending paragraph which will leads to the future direction, which directs the future study. What are all the possibilities that this can do? What are all the possibilities which can make this to take or reach the height? So that has to be mentioned in a small paragraph. So and conclusion is the concise part of this discussion. What we are going to infer from the discussion is the conclusion. It is a summary as like abstract, but it should explain what you found, what you infer, what you could do. This is the content of the conclusion. Next slide. So the main content. Next slide, please. The main content of the manuscript has ended with the conclusion. Yeah. main content of the manuscript is ended with the conclusion, but there is some topic information which we could add. No, keep the slide in the acknowledgement. Okay, move it to acknowledgement. Please. I could see only the discussion and conclusion. Can you move the slide to acknowledgement? Yeah, fix it. So what is an acknowledgement mean and what you can include? So acknowledgement includes thanking people who contribute to this article but who cannot claim the authorship. So there are few rules for providing authorship. You cannot give someone, you cannot give authorship for someone on behalf of, since he or she is your friend or friend of your boss, you cannot give authorship to them. You can acknowledge them. And those who can serve, like collecting samples and doing small helps, that things cannot be, that person cannot claim an authorship in the art. So those who cannot claim or who cannot put their contribution is not sufficient, even authorship can be acknowledged, it can be included in the acknowledgement section. And also many journals ask for acknowledging the funding agency which supports your research. So you can also mention the funding agency, and it also supports you to get more funds from the funding agency. So while mentioning the funding agency name, you have to name the funding agency, you have to name the number, the date of your fund details. So that fund details in the means not the amount of fund you got, the number of your fund. That has to be mentioned. For example, if it is an ICA, you have to mention ICA, which term, which fund, which year. You have to mention that. So that is more important. And majority of general include funding in the department. What are all the basic instruments you have? What are all the instruments you have used? What are all the sources you have used? You have to thank the funder of that source. If you have used something from others, other than your department, other than your institution, so you have to mention that you have thanked them for their contribution. That should be included in the acknowledgement, and not everyone in the department. So it should be limited. It should be from 3 to 5, not more than that. And next slide. Coming to the reference. So I have already give a glance of this references. What should be included in the reference? What should be the quality of the references? The references should be from the recent one. It should be from prestigious journal. Have to include all the content, all the. You have to thank for all the people who contribute the knowledge to this reference. So that should be mentioned, and here I have given a few things for that. You can read it, and the reference, it should be establish the origin of idea. It should justify the claim. It should provide a content for your work, and it shows there is interest in the field of research. So these are the important points why we should refer articles. And the important thing to avoid is never cite a publication based on what you have read in a different publication, such as a review, or based only on the publication abstract. So anything you have find interesting in the abstract, you have to go in detail to the article, and if it really supports your views, really supports your data or your idea, then you can refer it. Otherwise, simply avoid. And also referring someone who is very familiar, so that we have to refer there. If someone might have do some experiment in cancer and might quote someone who did in aquaculture, because he or she might be his friend. So that should be avoided to get the manuscript to publish in a good journal. And next slide. So here I'll give you few ideas how to format your manuscript. What are all the important things which is needed to format your manuscript? Now you have drafted your manuscript, as per the procedure given in the journal description. So now you have to format it before you send it, before you submit it. So these are few points I have mentioned here to be followed. What are all the things to be taken in consideration? You can read it when you get time. So I don't want to make it in detail. But I would say some tips that before writing a complete draft of your manuscript, it's good to select an initial target genre. So you have drafted a rough manuscript. You can keep it with you, but when you focus on making it to publish, you have to see if it is in reproductive biology or reproductive endocrinology. You have to have a list of journals which support the publication of reproductive endocrinology. Or if you are doing something in one field, for example, reproductive endocrinology, and that particular paper, it stands, if it is not stand directly or suitable for this reproductive biology, but that particular experiment or particular things that are suitable for some diary kind of stuff, which you can prefer. So selecting the manuscript it should be based on the scope of the manuscript. You cannot do something, you cannot publish something in the veterinary field into a photochemistry. That's irrelevant. Since someone is your friend in the photochemistry, you cannot publish the veterinary in the photochemistry. For an example, I'm saying. So the scope of the journal should be read, and it should it should be similar with the scope of your paper. The introduction, the end of the introduction, I said, right? That I've mentioned the aim of the motto of the study. That should be in equal with. That should be in equal with the scope of the journal. So you have to keep that in mind while submitting something for the journal. And coming to the authorship principle, there are a lot of principles for making who can be the author for the manuscript, who can contribute, who are all contributors, and what is the contribution, what is the substantial contribution. Either they can be able to get the authorship based on the contribution. There are few rules, there are few ethics. I don't know how come, I don't know how it is utilized currently in scenario. The current scenario is different, but as per the basic rule, there are few principles, few ethics for giving authorship. So there is a big list. What is the conceptualization? Who with data curation? Who formal analysis? What is the funding acquisition? Who acquires the fund? Who are all the investigators? Who draft the methodology? Who did the project administration? And the persons who are serves as a resource person, software analysis person, supervisor, who validate the results, validate the manuscript, and the visualization kind of thing, who track the original manuscript, who are all revising, editing the manuscript to get it published. They all are, these contributors are work to serve as authors. So merely someone who gives an instrument for you to execute the work, which doesn't serve or doesn't have any impact or doesn't give any input in your tracking or in your work progress, data analysis, proposal of literacy method, then they might not be given authorship. So have to be clear with it. Overall, these are the contributions that one can do to get the authorship in majority of the journals. So you have to keep in mind. Oh, I'm sorry. I haven't asked you to change the slide. Sorry. Can you go to the next slide? To explain the Vithoga. Oh, we didn't explain this. Okay, next slide. Yeah, these are the things I have explained. I'm sorry, I have changed the slides in my desktop and I have started explaining this. So next slide also. Yeah, these are the contributions by someone to get an authorship in the journal. Okay, next. So we are going to end. We are coming to the end. So disclosures and declarations and data transparency. So whomever serves as the author, that should they should declare that they have read the whole manuscript. They don't have conflict of interest in the research, in the drafting, in the picture. They have, see, if you are serving an author, if you are a part of a manuscript, you have to read the whole manuscript before the submission. You have to say, I'm okay. I will each and every figure, each and every content of the manuscript. Everything should be declared. So that is more important. We should not get authorship without seeing the whole manuscript. So that might, nowadays there are a lot of retractions from journals, even from nature, for a duplication of figures, duplication of content, copying, plagiarism, anything. So one should be cautious to include, not even, see, you might serve as a primary author, first author, or corresponding author. If you serve as a primary author, you have to be keen in adding authors and the credibility of that author. If that author might have a retraction, then it also affects in your case. So it should be more. It should be considered. I mean, you cannot add anybody to the manuscript to the author list. If they did some mistake in their research, your paper will also, your credibility will also be insulted. So should be more clear about that, and there are transparencies should have everything should be between the authors. It should be transparent, and there is no image duplication from other articles. If you are using other articles, other images, you have to get proper permission from the copyright owner, because for many articles, the publisher serves as the copyright owner. Unless otherwise you purchase or you become, if it is an open access article, you can get authorship. Means you can get copyright authorship. So not being a primary author or corresponding author doesn't mean that you have the copyright rights, because in majority of the journals we give the copyright rights to the journal with an informed consent, because we have to publish it without spending amount. So without spending amount, if you want to publish, then you have to give the copyright to the publisher. So there is a rule for that. And if you want to make your publication, the copyright of your publication with you, it requires you to pay money and take the copyright. If the copyright is with you, nobody will. I have moved to the next slide. I didn't have to change this slide. I'm still in the disclosure and declaration. Yeah. So if you purchase the copyright with you can make use of the figures which you have published, or otherwise you cannot use the picture. You cannot use the picture in for other uses. So when you are referring some other articles, you have to mention the publication detail, who is the copywriter, everything in the article. This is very much useful for those who track review papers. So almost we have done, and the last slide is, go to the last slide. Next slide. Next slide. Next. Not previous. The next. Yes. So here I have given information about the process of what are the process goes in the production industry. So as I have already mentioned, there are many society journals and there are many publishers, LCBS, Springer, Wiley Blackwell, and these are few examples of publishers and societies like Proton Society of India, with ICAR, ICMR. They have also published few journals, and the production content, what is happening inside the production, varies from one company to another company, and the general concept is a conversion of your data into an XML. They'll create the XML and then do image processing and make typeset. These are the major concepts or major content that's going inside the production industry. And they have many checkpoints, and they'll in that checkpoint contact. They'll be in a contact with the scientist or with the primary author or corresponding author, and the process are starting from copy editing and language polishing, data processing and typesetting, article tracking. So these are the major things which happen. So I would explain. I would explain my experience in the production industry. So when you submit a paper, when you submit your manuscript in the portal, there are many online portals now. So previously, some decades before, you have to make printouts of every pages, and you have to send via courier to the publishing industry. And they'll read everything. They'll make subcopies, go to the reviewers, and get their corrections. So it's just like that. But nowadays, everything is computerized, everything is digitalized, and you send everything as soft copy. So this soft copy first go to the journal editorial office, and from the journal editorial office, they'll send it to the editor. They'll check for the suitable editor. They'll ask for the editor, and if the editor say yes to the manuscript, they'll send it. So how the editor will say yes? They'll check. They'll read the abstract, and if the abstract is suitable, then they'll accept the article. Means they'll accept the article for revision, and the editor that is in the first level, and he will check whether the content of the article is covered by the scope of the journal. So if it is in the scope, then they'll allow it to pass to the hands of reviewer. And these reviewers will there are 3 reviewers for any article in a peer-reviewed journal, and when the peer-reviewed journal, they have prestigious, and you will have some good credibility or good credits when you have published it in a peer-reviewed journal. So if it moves to the reviewer, then the reviewer will detailedly analyze the article, and will get whether he can provide whether it can be accepted or not. Accepted with minor correction, minor addition, or accepted with major addition. This kind of information they have mentioned. So that again it will move to our hand. So we have to revise. We have to do all the revision that in forthcoming meetings, scientists will explain you how to do it. So this has been happening, and you have to submit it again. And once you submit the confirmed copy, it will move to XML creator. So he will make everything into a code. He will tag every content, every sub heading, everything into a code, and make it to pass into the machine. And then make it typesetted copy, which is similar to the final accepted manuscript, final published manuscript. In a 2-column job, they'll blow everything in a 2-column job, or 3-column job, or single-column job as per the journal's requirement, and try to fit the tables and figures which is on the related pages, the relevant pages. Everything has been checked. And there are few ethics, like it should not be redundant word like was, which should not be coming every sentence, those kind of stuff. So they'll do all the typesetting, and they'll give it back to us for a check. So if we check, if we said okay to the typeset copy, then it will move for online publication. So once it is published in the online, at that stage, our communication will be stopped. So after that, after some time, these kind of all published materials have been compiled to make it as an issue. They'll build it as an issue and publish this issue in as a hard copy or a soft copy. So this is the whole setup of the publication industry, and with this, I'll conclude the session. So I have included how to, what are the important sections of the manuscript, how to do it, how to create it, what are all the production, what are the processes in the production industry, what are all the ethics we used to follow while giving an authorship or giving or using a speaker table. So these are all the things I have included in this session. So by this, I'll conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Muthuselvam, for your elaborative lecture about almost all the topics you have covered. So you made the job of other speakers very simple, because most of the things what you have said is going to be repeated to some extent in the subsequent lectures of today's presentation, because tomorrow we will be having the second module of the workshop, which is mainly concentrated on the presentation of scientific findings. So it's really a very good presentation, and it would be helpful for all kind of researchers, because we had various capacities of participants, from undergraduate students to early career faculties. I think all the participants have enjoyed your lecture. So with this, I conclude the session, and I request the participants to clarify their questions. If you have any specific question, you can please post your questions in the chat box. Or if you have a proper mic connection, then you can unmute your mic and then ask the question. Questions, please. Yeah, Muthuselvam, there is one question. Could you please suggest any tool or server for plagiarism checking?
There are few online servers for plagiarism, but have to buy plagiarism software. The majority of the university administration system, they have some plagiarism software. But as of now, you can, in the Google, there are a lot. If you can type in the Google, there are a lot. I don't want to mention the name, but the reliability of that tool is not, that is, reliability is very low. Unless otherwise you purchase some tool, which is a bit costly, and individual cannot purchase, a department or a college or a university can purchase that. You can use that. I'm not, I didn't remind the name of the tool, but you can use an online tool.
Okay. So the next question is whether manuscript and paper, are they different or is it the same? Manuscript and paper.
They are different. Yeah, they are different. Manuscript is, as I said, it is like the food you prepare in the kitchen and the one you serve in the table.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay. So, and the next question is, can we use present tense when we refer to a table in the manuscript?
No. It should be a present continuous, or mostly it should not be used past tense, because the table explains, the legend of the table is explains what is mentioned in the table. But of course, you can use present and present continuous. I'm sorry, it should not be past tense.
Okay, and the next question is from Ms. Uma Priya. Sir, is there any limited number of words in abstract?
Of course, it varies from one journal to another journal. Majority of the journal, the limitation is 150 words, and few journals, it has a limitation of 200 and 250. So 250 is the maximum, as I found, 250 is the maximum, but it varies from 100 to 250. As per the journal requirement, it varies from one journal to another.
And the next question is from Preeti Ravichandran. What is the advantage of using the tool journal guide?
Okay, can you repeat it again?
What is the advantage of using the tool journal guide?
I didn't get the question.
Yeah, can you pose the question in another way, Preeti?
Well, Dr. Sankar Ganesh, and
yeah.
I Shall I interpret this question, what she has posted?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there are some online tools in which when we put the abstract or the title, they suggest some journals. I think
Okay.
that's what.
Journal
Pardon?
finder.
Yeah, journal finder, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Oh. Okay, she's asking what is the advantage. I'm not. We are not sure. Can you please repeat the question, Miss Preeti Ravichandran? And the next question is from Sasireka Manikantan. Can we use the abstract in thesis as sent to the manuscript? Can we use the abstract what we written in a thesis? The same can be sent to a manuscript or not?
I would say no, because, for example, if it is a master work, then you can. That is an opportunity. But if it's a PhD work, you might not publish all the work as a one paper. You might have splitted your work to publish it in many papers. So it will not stand for the purpose. You cannot use the same. You have, as per ethics, you cannot use the same as you have given the copyright to the publisher. You cannot use the same.
Okay. The next question is from Sivasakti. How can we choose a suitable journal? Is there any easy yet reliable method to do so?
Unless otherwise you have spent some time on the net to check which journals are related to your field, it is not easy. You have to do some basic work to check the journal. And easiest way is what are all the articles which supports your results, your what are all the references you are using in your discussion. You can go with that channel because that channel might be have a possibility to accept your knowledge. For example, if you refer 50 articles and nearly 5 to 10 articles are from one particular channel, you can move to that channel.
Yeah, adding to the point of Dr. Muthuselvam, Shivasakti, you have some options in all the major uh, publications. I mean, Science Direct, Springer, everywhere. You have an option to match your abstract, where you can copy and paste your abstract in the journal finder, and it would suggest you an appropriate journal based on the words what you are using inside the abstract. But it's not something like it is going to be accepted by that journal very immediately. It is suggesting based on your word usage. So it is one of the ways to find a suitable journal for your manuscript. And Dr. Muthuselvam, there is one more question. In writing
Yes.
figure legend, it describes the figure or need to explain the result.
Uh, Not the later one, the former one. It needs to explain the figure, the content, the components of the figure, not the results again. So, anything which is redundant or repeating is avoided, either in the text or the text with a figure legend. It should not be redundant or it should not be a repetence of what you have mentioned in the text. Whereas you have to explain the components of the figure in detail in the legend so that it stands alone and it explains the content rather than copying the same thing which is mentioned in the discussion part of the text. So you can explain the components of the figure and give some idea about what it explains and what it stands for. So that's fine.
Okay, one more question. If our manuscript is not accepted by one journal due to unmatched scope, can we upload the same in other journal and will it raise plagiarism issues or not?
Come again, uploading the same in the other journal and what is the link for it?
Is there, yeah, is there, is it be, will it be considered as a plagiarism or not?
No, how? Unless otherwise it is accepted by something and published on the net, it will not be considered as a plagiarism. So you cannot upload the same content which is published already by a publisher or a journal. You cannot repeat the same content for another manuscript, means another journal.
So it is, yeah, it is something like it should be rejected, officially rejected from one journal, and then you can communicate it to another journal, right?
Yeah, you can submit your journal to 100 means submit your manuscript to 100 journals. Unless otherwise it is published, it will not consider plagiarism. If it is published by one journal and you make the content, the similar content for another journal, then it is considered as plagiarism.
But the same manuscript cannot be submitted to 2 journals at a time, right?
Of course, you should not do that.
Yeah.
That is a patience. People should be patient while submitting the manuscript, and you should not give hope if it is rejected by 5 or 6 journals. Don't lose hope. You might have that's not a suitable journal for your manuscript. So you have to don't give up. You have to patient, and you can submit to another channel. But I would suggest not to submit the same content, not to submit this in the same way to the other channel. It's better to submit which is supportive. Means you have to change something in the manuscript and submit to the next channel. You not submit the same because it's already rejected, right? You should not submit the same to the other channel.
Okay, and the next question is from Dr. Selvakumar. How to respond to the comments of the reviewers to justify our points in our manuscript?
I hope I found a few contents in the brochure that this is the topic of another person. So I think the other person in the subsequent day or the next day or next session, they might have explained it in detail. So I can give options.
Okay, so thank you. If there are no more questions, we thank Dr. Muthuselvam Ramu for his presence. He took a leave for this presentation. I hope so. Is because of his personal interest, and as like other speakers of this workshop, he immediately accepted the invitation. I called him, and the next day he gave the confirmation, and what he has prepared is a brand new presentation. I hope so, because it looks pretty new, and it contains as much as information what you need to have before you are going for a publication, or before you are going to write a manuscript. So thank you, Dr. Muthuselvam, for your wonderful presentation.
Thank you. I would like to add some word after you finish, so don't disconnect.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I would.
Yeah. You can continue. Yes.
No. You can finish so that I can.
Okay. So at the outset, we thank and we sincerely thank Dr. Muthuselvam for his outstanding presentation on this workshop. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes.
Yeah. I would like to thank all the participants who are so patient for these 2 hours to be a part of this presentation. So I'm so happy for you, and thanks for a lot of questions. I saw your chat. There are a lot of questions. So thanks for your participation. Thanks for your questions and consideration. And I also like to thank both Shankar Ganesh, Dr. D. Shankar Ganesh, and another Shankar Ganesh Arunachalam for this opportunity. Thanks, sir. Thanks for you both, and I thank Kalavini University for providing me this good opportunity. So thank you very much, and I'm so happy with this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Muthuselvam. So the attendance link has been shared in the chat box. So participants, please fill your attendance for this session. And with this, we are going to move to the next session. Of course, we